Ferrari finished just 1.952 seconds behind Mercedes at Spa, but Fred Vasseur has now exposed why that tiny gap was hiding a much bigger problem. Charles Leclerc took the lead. Ferrari nailed the strategy. George Russell was already out. The virtual safety car gave Ferrari the perfect opportunity. And Kimi Antonelli still caught him, passed him, and won. The reason was not one bad pit stop, one driver mistake, or one unlucky decision. Mercedes had a hidden advantage in the exact part of the circuit where Ferrari could not fight back. Every time the track opened into a straight, Leclerc became vulnerable. And the most shocking part is this. Ferrari did not lose because the race went wrong. Ferrari lost after almost everything went right. Subscribe to the channel, because Vasseur's final explanation reveals why Ferrari never truly caught Mercedes, even when Leclerc was leading. Spa does not hide weaknesses. It waits until a car looks competitive, until the driver believes the race is under control, and then it exposes the truth at full speed. That was the danger Ferrari carried into Belgium. At some circuits, a slower car can survive through positioning. A driver can protect the inside line. A team can use strategy to place the right car ahead. Narrow corners can make overtaking difficult, and track position can become a shield. Spa removes that shield. The circuit demands confidence through some of the fastest corners on the calendar. It asks the car to remain stable under heavy braking. It forces the tires to survive long, loaded sections. Then it opens into extended acceleration zones where power and efficiency become impossible to hide. A car may look strong through one part of the lap. Then it reaches the straight and everything changes. Ferrari already knew this before the race began. Fred Vasseur had warned that circuits like Silverstone and Spa would be difficult. Ferrari had improved the chassis. The upgrades were beginning to work. The car was becoming more predictable through the corners, and that progress was giving Charles Leclerc more confidence. But one major weakness remained: straight-line performance. That phrase sounds simple, but it describes a much larger problem. Straight-line speed does not depend on one component. The power unit matters. The electrical energy matters. The grip available at corner exit matters. The aerodynamic resistance created by the car matters. Even the setup chosen for the wings can decide whether the car gains time in the corners or loses it when the road opens. Ferrari had to balance all of those areas. Add more aerodynamic grip, and the car may become stronger through fast corners. But more grip can also create more resistance. Reduce that resistance, and the car may gain speed on straight. But then the driver may lose confidence through the corners. It is like running with an open umbrella in a strong wind. The umbrella can help stabilize you, but it also makes it harder to move forward. Ferrari needed the grip. Mercedes appeared to suffer less from the cost. That was the warning Vasseur could not ignore. Ferrari had improved enough to fight. Mercedes was still complete enough to control the decisive moments. And the opening lap made that difference difficult to see. George Russell's Mercedes suffered a problem with boost and energy deployment after the first corner. In simple terms, the car did not deliver its full acceleration when Russell expected it. Imagine pressing the accelerator while joining a fast motorway, only for the response to arrive late. Everyone around you is still moving at full speed. You are suddenly exposed. That was Russell's position. He began losing momentum. Cars moved around him. The order became unstable within seconds. Then Lewis Hamilton arrived at the fifth corner. Hamilton's Ferrari made contact with Russell. The Mercedes was turned around, and Russell's race ended before he could recover. For Mercedes, the damage was immediate. One of its cars was gone. For Ferrari, the opportunity had become enormous. But Leclerc was not relying only on Russell's retirement. He had already created his own opening. On the first lap, Leclerc attacked through Eau Rouge and passed Russell and Max Verstappen. It was one of the most important moves of the race. He had not simply gained positions. He had placed Ferrari directly behind Kimi Antonelli. That changed the strategic picture completely. Mercedes no longer had two cars near the front. It could not divide its options. It could not use one driver to pressure Ferrari while the other controlled the lead. Antonelli was alone. Ferrari only needed Leclerc to remain close enough to create uncertainty. That is often where a race begins moving away from the fastest car. A leader wants control. The team wants to manage the tires, protect the pit window, and respond without taking unnecessary risks. But a rival sitting close behind destroys that comfort. Pit too early, and the tires may not survive. Pit too late, and Ferrari may gain track position. Push too hard, and the tires may overheat. Control the pace too carefully, and Leclerc may attack. Ferrari did not need to be faster everywhere. It only needed Mercedes to feel pressure. Then, the virtual safety car appeared. Suddenly, Ferrari had the opportunity it needed. Under normal racing conditions, a pit stop costs a large amount of time because the cars remaining on the circuit continue at full speed. The stopping driver slows for the pit lane, changes tires, and accelerates back onto the track. Under a virtual safety car, every driver must reduce speed. That makes the stop less expensive compared with the cars still circulating. Think of leaving a queue while everyone else is suddenly forced to walk slowly. You still lose time, but not nearly as much as you would if they continued running. Ferrari reacted at exactly the right moment. Leclerc entered the pit lane. The crew completed the stop. The strategic calculation worked, and when the race reorganized, Ferrari had moved ahead. Leclerc was leading the Belgian Grand Prix. This was the scenario Ferrari needed. Russell was out. Antonelli was behind. Leclerc had clean air. The strategy team had delivered. The pit crew had done its job. At one of the circuits Ferrari feared most, the red car was at the front. For a brief moment, the weakness appeared to have disappeared. It had not. It was simply sitting behind Leclerc, waiting for the track to open. That distinction changes everything. Ferrari had earned the lead through timing and execution. Mercedes still possessed the quicker underlying package. Leclerc could control the pace through the corners. Antonelli could attack whenever the straight-line advantage became large enough. At first, the danger did not look dramatic. The gap did not collapse in one lap. Antonelli gained in small pieces. A fraction of a second disappeared through one acceleration zone. Another fraction vanished on the following lap. Leclerc remained competitive through the corners. The Ferrari chassis gave him enough confidence to place the car accurately and keep the fight alive. But every time the circuit opened, the Mercedes moved closer. That was the first sign that Ferrari's lead was temporary. The gap was not shrinking because Leclerc had made a major mistake. It was shrinking because the same performance difference kept returning. One loss at corner exit, another during electrical deployment, another as aerodynamic resistance became more important at higher speed. Then both cars reached the braking zone, and Antonelli was closer than before. One small gain does not decide a race. Repeated gains do. Mercedes had repetition. Ferrari had pressure. The closer Antonelli came, the more Leclerc had to think about defending. That changed the way he could drive. When a driver is attacking, he chooses the moment. He decides where to apply pressure. He can save the tires. He can wait for the rival to make an error. He can use electrical energy where it has the greatest effect. When a driver is defending against a faster car, those choices begin to disappear. The pressure comes from behind. The rival controls the threat. The driver ahead starts reacting. Leclerc was still leading, but he was no longer fully controlling the race. He had to protect the inside line. He had to monitor the mirrors. He had to manage the tires. He had to decide when to release electrical energy. He had to avoid giving Antonelli a strong run onto the straight. And he had to do all of that while maintaining enough speed to stop the Mercedes from getting closer. That was the real beginning of Ferrari's problem. The team had taken the lead, but Mercedes had already started taking control. But control in Formula One is not always visible. Leclerc was still ahead on the timing screen. Ferrari still occupied the position that mattered. From the outside, it looked as though Mercedes was chasing. Inside the race, the opposite was beginning to happen. Antonelli was deciding the pressure. Leclerc was responding to it. And once that pattern begins, the driver in front can lose the race long before he loses the position. The first problem was the racing line. The fastest route through a corner is usually wide, smooth, and carefully planned. The driver uses the full width of the circuit, carries speed toward the apex, then allows the car to open its steering on the exit. Defending changes all of that. The driver moves toward the inside. The corner becomes tighter. The car must slow more sharply, and the exit becomes weaker. That weaker exit was exactly what Ferrari could not afford. Mercedes already had the advantage under acceleration. Every defensive move gave Antonelli an even stronger chance on the next straight. Leclerc could protect one braking zone, but the price of that protection followed him into the next acceleration phase. Antonelli closed. Leclerc defended. The Ferrari lost momentum. Then the Mercedes closed again. That cycle was not dramatic at first. It was worse than dramatic. It was gradual. A major mistake can be understood immediately. The driver knows what happened. The team can identify the exact moment. A repeated performance loss is different. Nothing appears completely wrong. The lap still looks competitive. The car still feels strong in several corners, but the rival continues getting closer. That creates doubt. Leclerc had to ask himself whether Antonelli was already close enough to attack. Should he protect the inside now? Should he use more electrical energy? Should he push harder through the previous corner? Should he preserve the tires for later? Every answer carried a risk. Defend too early, and Ferrari loses unnecessary time. Defend too late, and Mercedes gets alongside. Use too much energy, and the car may become vulnerable later in the lap. Save too much, and the position may disappear immediately. This was where Mercedes' speed became psychological pressure. Antonelli did not need to attempt the overtake on every lap. He only needed Leclerc to believe he might. A small movement in the mirrors could force Ferrari to react. Antonelli could show the car toward one side. Leclerc would cover the line. Then Antonelli could return to the faster route and prepare a stronger exit. Even without completing the pass, Mercedes could make Ferrari slower. That is what a performance advantage gives a driver. It creates options. Antonelli could attack. He could wait. He could pressure the tires. He could force Leclerc into defensive positioning. Ferrari had fewer choices. Leclerc had to protect the lead while preserving the car. And that became even more difficult because of the tires. Defending is expensive. A tighter line asks more from the front tires. The car may slide as it turns. The rear tires then work harder as the driver tries to recover speed on exit. One defensive lap may not create serious damage. Several defensive laps can change the entire balance. The tire surface becomes hotter. Grip starts to fade. The car becomes less precise. Then the driver must slow a little more. The exit becomes weaker again, and the rival behind gains even more. The problem begins feeding itself. Ferrari needed Leclerc to defend. Defending risked weakening the tires. Weaker tires made the next defense harder. Antonelli could apply pressure without taking the same risk. He could stay close, study the Ferrari, and wait for the weakness to grow. Every lap gave him more information. He could watch where Leclerc braked. He could see which corners forced the Ferrari to slide. He could identify where Leclerc used electrical energy. He could notice when the rear tires began struggling for grip. A driver following closely is not simply waiting for luck. He is learning. Antonelli was learning where the Ferrari was strongest. More importantly, he was learning where it was most vulnerable. Leclerc was trying to hide those weaknesses while driving at the limit.